was clearly looking at all the notes. All right, y'all. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Lives with Trey and Jay. This is our Thursday lives. We pull up right on to YouTube. We were on Instagram, and now we are pulling up onto the YouTubes, y'all. So gather yourselves and get with us. So as I said, welcome to Lives with Trey and Jay. This is our every Thursday thing. Hi, everyone. I'm Trey.
I'm Jay, and I'm super excited because
Yes.
we've had a conversation about health is wealth for the month of January. And everybody has that goal to be healthy in the beginning of the year, and then it somehow dwindles away towards the middle of the year. Actually, by February.
By like week 2. What you saying?
So we're not going to be like that. So by week 2, but we're not going to be like that. So this month we talked about the health of your mind. Health of your body. And today we're going to talk about the health of your spirit. And we are super excited because you want to talk about it?
Oh my goodness. So I'm just gonna put the reality of this whole situation, y'all. This is literally our spiritual father. Like, I mean, I don't know what else to say. And love this person dearly. And I'm just excited. We're excited to share in all the conversation with y'all. We are going to be talking about health is wealth spirit. And we're going to be introducing Pastor B, Pastor Brandon Watts. Pull up. I feel so formal saying that.
Yo, what up?
Right.
What up?
Brandon.
I can't hear Tracy. I can hear you, Janelle. I hear you loud and clear, but I can't hear Tracy.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay.
I don't look at this, Janelle. I don't know what she said, but I hope it was very steaming and loving and caring. But I really couldn't hear her.
I mean, Tracy. It was.
She
great.
did that. I got her.
It was great. And so we were just saying about Pastor B is that he is one of our spiritual dads. Though technically I don't go to the church anymore, which is Epiphany Church, Brooklyn.
You really do.
But I kind of really do. Right. You can't get rid of me. And so anyway, the point we're trying to make is that we wouldn't let just anyone speak to you. We love Pastor B. We love his family. And we agree that he is a man of God. And so we're going to get into the conversations.
Let's do it.
Trey, can you give a little 1-2?
I don't know if y'all hearing me.
I can't hear her. Do you hear her, Trey? Jay, I meant. You hear?
I can hear her.
Okay.
I can't hear her.
All right. Well,
the show's still moving.
The show will go on, and
Yes.
she'll come in. She'll come in eventually.
Yeah.
So, Pastor B, we decided to speak to you about the health of your spirit because, I mean, like, not that you're an expert in this, but you're like really good at teaching the word, and that's super important. It's super important to have the knowledge of the word of God in order to have a healthy spirit. So tell us about yourself a little bit. The fact that you have a new show, I guess you want to call TLK 37. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell us a little about Epiphany Church, being a father, a husband, a son, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, let me first say that I'm extremely honored to be on with you guys tonight. Certainly love you and Trey. You guys are. Trey, say something. I think I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Oh, my heart.
I genuinely love you guys. I take the role that you guys have even me tonight of spiritual father. I take that very serious. And I've known you guys for some time now. I met you both in 2015. I met you first, Janelle, at the early part of 2015. But I remember the day I met both of you. I remember meeting Trey the 2015. It was the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Meeting Tracy and you guys have just from the time this spiritual growth topic tonight. You guys have really grown over the last 4 years. I just wanted to start off by saying how proud I am of you guys and love you guys.
Thank you.
So a little bit about me. I'll keep it short. I'm a servant of Jesus. That's first and foremost. I'm also a husband of Ty. I'm a father of two boys, two teenage boys. Brandon, my
Teenage
oldest,
boys.
yeah, 17, doing college applications right now in the midst of that with him, and 14-year-old, 15-year-old Jeremy, and privileged to be the lead pastor of Epiphany Church, church here in Brooklyn, and host of, as you said, TLK, but it's short. We try to be cool there. It's short for Talk 37.
Talk
Talk,
37.
yeah, Janelle. We got that name from Ecclesiastes 3:7 that talks about how there's a time to be silent, but then it goes on to say there's
Mm-hmm.
a time to speak. And so Talk 37 really is an avenue to capture conversations and competing thoughts and intellectual debates, and all of it is helpful to stir up the mind, but also stir up the action. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. So, what are the practical ways that one could have a healthy, growing spirit? Let's get into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so yeah, practical ways, man. I love this topic. I'll
Me
shoot out some
too.
practical, I can tell. And I'm also loving that you guys are thinking holistic health, right?
Yeah.
Because, man, I really want to get Tracy in this
You
conversation.
hear me?
Um, I,
She
I,
still can't hear you.
I can't, yeah, I see you. You got to
Dang.
write some signs or something. I can't hear.
throw, throw up some signs.
But you guys are talking about, right, emotional health. You're talking about physical health, or bodily health, as somebody said. I don't know who DJ Olivia is, but she sounds dope. I want to see what she's up to. Um, but the idea of spiritual health is extremely important, right? It's
Hmm.
for those of us who have professed faith in Christ. And so, what are practical ways? Discipleship, a commitment to a local body. Yeah, I think it's impossible to spiritually grow and be isolated from the body. That doesn't make sense. I also think, the emotional stuff that you guys are talking about actually is interchangeable in some ways, and overlaps, I should say, with your spiritual health, right? If I'm always depressed and I'm not, I'm full of anxiety, and I'm not really like going to therapy and counseling, that affects my spiritual walk. Like, I don't want to have time with the Lord. I don't want to exercise the spiritual disciplines. And so, counseling and therapy are important. I'm glad you guys are touching on that.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, exercising the disciplines of prayer and reading devotion, and fasting. We don't fast no more. Exercising
Say,
those
Pastor B.
disciplines are extremely important. The last one I would say, just practically, many people won't see this as part of their spiritual growth, their journey, but a rest. Rest,
Mm.
rest, rest. There's a reason why at Exodus 18, Moses is like doing all of this work, and he's counseling, counseling, counseling. Everybody's bringing their issues to him. And his father Jethro comes to him in verse 17 and says, like, this thing you're doing is not good. He was challenging him
Mm.
on resting, because part of spiritual growth, you have to have some type of energy. So sometimes, like, honestly, one of the most spiritual things you can do is go to bed. You want to grow the next day. Wake up fresh and ready and
Take a
eager
nap.
to engage with the Lord and engage with those around you. But you can't do that if you're always, always, always tired. And there'll be seasons of tiredness, but for the most part, we should be seeking rest. It is the longest commandment, and there's a reason it is.
Can you not still? You can't hear her still.
Can you hear
Let me
me?
hear you, Trey. No. Do y'all want me to
No?
drop off and come back in?
Yeah.
It's up to y'all. I'll do it if you want me to. If not,
Yes.
this. All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'll be right back.
All right, y'all. We just trying to get the sound correct, because everyone else I'm getting messages that they can hear me, but we want to make sure, obviously, our guests can hear us both, because we got
Yes.
all the things to say. So thank you so much for staying tuned
For
and
rocking with us.
in and rocking with us. Y'all know this is week 2 up on the YouTube, but check us out in 6 months. We're going to be killing the game. All right, y'all? That's the point. That's the whole point.
Can you hear now, Pastor B?
Let me hear you, Trey.
Yer.
Yeah, we in there. We in there.
I got mad hype. Okay, we in now. Go ahead.
I was like, how are we having this conversation without Tracy? We got to have her in. I'm glad we got it together.
Yes.
So
Okay.
you were saying Pastor B was
Yeah,
saying,
I think I was hitting. So
rest
yeah,
is super
I was.
important.
So I was trying to hit all of the practical stuff, but I think it's important for your listeners and your viewers to understand that if they have trusted in Jesus, there is no option to grow. Like you have to be spiritually growing because honestly, it is no such thing as a stagnant Christian. Either we are growing or we are regressing. That I
Yeah.
mean, you don't you know when you rarely like think of your own life, Trey and Jay. Like you typically when you're not growing, you're never stagnant and staying in the same place. We're typically going backwards, I should say. And so it's really what Jesus says in John 15, which is, "Whoever abides in me bears much fruit."
Right.
But then he says the opposite. He said, if you don't abide in me, you wither. And so there's this two, there's, which is why I'm glad you guys are talking about this. And I try to take my spiritual growth serious. Every week I want to grow. Every year I want to grow. And I don't ever want to be stagnant because stagnation means decline. And so, yeah, it's extremely important.
All right.
You said, wait, I got one thing to say, Pastor B. You said that you cannot have emotional health and spiritual health. You cannot have one without the other. And it reminds me of the book Emotionally and Healthy Spirituality.
Pete Scazzaro.
Yeah. And he says that throughout the book. He says, there's no way for you to be emotionally healthy and spiritually unhealthy, or vice versa. Like you have to have both.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is a big deal, y'all.
Yeah,
There's
they're
so
interchangeable.
many unhappy, not to say that you're always going to be happy all the time, but there's so many people who are professing the name of Jesus and are very emotionally unhealthy. So anyway.
So
Go ahead,
I just wanted to kind of talk about, and I know probably we all have probably seen or heard the clips or what so have you from the conversation that Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child had a conversation on The Breakfast Club, and she was talking about forgiveness. So I think the main question that we get to really unpack at this point is, why is forgiveness a continual conversation for someone who's working on their spiritual health? Like, what's the point of consistently talking or continuously talking about forgiveness?
Yeah, because nothing is more unhealthy for your growth like holding a grudge. I did watch that interview, and she was really, you could see growth in her, like even as she was talking about, and which is dope because she had, she talked about in the interview how she was lied on and trolled and deeply betrayed even by loved ones. And that may not be, your viewer's story, but some of us have been, just you might have been stolen or cheated on, and sometimes, that unforgiveness, really what it does is if it sits long enough, it grows into bitterness. And so unforgiveness really does keep us, and she talked about it, Trey, in the interview, that unforgiveness keeps us in bondage while the person we aren't forgiven ain't thinking about us and they moving on, with their life. And so I do think, it's important because Jesus talks about, forgiveness. And I think we'd be hard pressed to find somebody that is spiritually growing, but not being faithful to what Jesus has said. And Jesus spends time read Matthew 18. I mean, he gives parables about, Peter's like, man, how often should I forgive my brother? And Peter thought he was doing something 7 times. Nah, that's not enough. Like 7 times 7, or some translations say 77 times. The point is, forgive them until every time they say sorry, like you got to continue to forgive them. And so, I preached on Sunday, Trey and Jay, about, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with all people. And unfortunately, many of us have been really, really good. We've mastered the art of being faithful to devotion while being nasty and mean and unforgiving and unloving. At the end of the day, that's not a mark of a true Christian. And so, I want to focus on it because the Lord focuses on it.
So there's 2 things that I want to quickly say. One, To everyone viewing, we definitely have an episode. I think it is from both seasons, from season 1 and season 2 of Life with Trey and Jay on this channel, where we are talking about forgiveness. And it's also on our website. We had a blog post about it as well, as this is
important.
a consistent conversation. And then also, I do want to piggyback on something that you said, like people can be super nasty. I was actually having that conversation with my cousin this week about her view of Christians, of people who say that they are, that they love God, that they love Jesus, but they're nasty. and I think the part that you are talking about is something that we really get to express, like that level, those types of when you recognize that somebody's dealing with those things, a lot of it boils down to unforgiveness, resentfulness, just
turns into bitterness.
Bitterness. It compounds. That's ultimately what happens. Unforgiveness compounds into, I am now physically on the outside nasty. Yeah. But if we really, and that's something that I also got from that interview too, is when you take the moments to really look at a person and not just be so quick to say, oh, you nasty, don't nobody want to talk to you, which is true. Something is happening within that person as well. Mm-hmm. That's I mean, like in real life. So
yeah, in real life. Yes.
It's good. You know, the other thing I picked up, and I'm sorry if you want to ask more questions, but you
go ahead.
You hit on something with the interview. The other thing I picked up was Michelle was very eager to celebrate the growth. Now, it may not have been spiritual growth, and I know that's what we're talking about tonight, but the growth that she saw in Charlemagne. And I thought that was dope because we don't take enough time celebrating the growth that we've seen in others. You know, I tried at the top of this. I don't know if you heard me, Trey. I couldn't hear you, but I wanted to celebrate like you guys' growth because, you know, it's important. It's important for the people around you. You know, you, Trey, Janelle, you're a wife now, and you know, you're a mother, and so like the growth needs to be like so consistent. But it's important to understand that we're not all on the same pace of growth. Which means like the people that are nasty, or the people that are, you know, still are, you know, trying to overcome bitterness or unforgiveness. It's important to be as gracious as possible, because one of the things I've learned as a pastor, and you guys have probably seen this just with the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis. There are some people that meet Jesus and they're on a 6-lane highway with all green lights and they're just moving forward and they're growing and growing and growing.
That's Tracy.
That's Tracy. That is 100% Tracy. Tracy got into the faith and was hungry.
Yeah.
But here's the danger, not with Tracy, but with people that grow quickly. They then begin, if they're not careful, they'll think that their pace of growth is everybody's pace of growth. And so there are some people out on that 6-lane highway, then there's some people on a dirt road that has bumps and detours. And they're not going to all arrive at spiritual maturity at the same pace, but it is very important that you allow them both to be on their journey. Now, I would say the one that's on the 6-lane highway should be discipling the one, right? That's on the bumpy road. But nevertheless, we can't look down. They all grow at different paces. So whoever's watching tonight or wherever you guys put this up at, man, be careful because what happens is you'll grow prideful. That I've grown this much, or, you know, I've matured in this way, and then you'll begin to look down on everybody else. And it's dangerous. You're probably now growing, but you're actually growing in immaturity as well as spiritual maturity, which is dangerous.
That's that comparison. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's good. Okay. So I wanted to get into this is, you know, all the things is good. All the things is good. But
everything is good.
Everything is good. But I wanted to talk about sin, right? I wanted to specifically have this conversation on sin. Like we often, focus on the sins that we're able to see, right? Like sexual sin, but yet rarely focus on the sins that we aren't able to see. So let's talk about how the sins that we aren't able to see, like that aren't as obvious, like greed, gossip, racism, unforgiveness. Like how do all of those things compounded or even, singularly on their own, how does that affect our spiritual health?
That's such a good question. You know why it's a good question? Because it is the unnoticeable sins that actually are destroying us.
Yeah,
eroding away. It's eroding away.
We too busy going, man. I'm being celibate, but yeah, you're real prideful. You have a lot of envy in your heart. You're very greedy. Like these what we would call quote unquote little sins. One of my favorite theologians is Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I'm sure you guys are aware of who he is and have heard me quote him before. He has a sermon called Little Sins. And
so good.
In the sermon, man, it's one of the greatest sermons like ever. But in the sermon, he talks about how a little sin, if not checked, becomes bigger sins. And so he talks about, he gives this analogy of like you being in the forest and there's like a little spark of fire. And that little spark is so small that even an infant could tap his foot on the spark and it'll go out, because that's what happens when you check sin. But those little unnoticeable sins, Trey, that you were mentioning, if they are not checked, will burn the whole forest down. And so we think that it's not getting us right now because, we're only focusing on, not having sex and, the big things. And it's like, now we've become really good at putting a hierarchy on sin.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Like, why are we putting like when the Lord looks at sin, he doesn't have a hierarchy. It's all that, right? But we like to put a hierarchy on sin. And the reason we do that is because we want to celebrate the ones that are manageable, but the ones that we can't manage, we keep those covered, we keep those hidden, and we don't let anybody know about them. And it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Man, anybody that's listening, don't put a hierarchy on sin. It's all whack. It all needs to be submitted and repented of. It needs to be submitted to the Lord, all of it.
The fact that we look down on people because we sin differently from others is whack. Like I sin different. I may forgive easier because it's still hard to forgive, but like, I can like really be jealous, or I don't know, whatever it is. And I've seen it so many times, and I've done it and not realize, especially when you grow up in the church. When you grow up in the church, you grow up like Trey as an adult became a Christian and was on that 6-lane highway. For somebody like me, it's been a slow process, and you got to check yourself. So I got to check myself. Yeah, but go ahead, Trey.
No, I wanted to highlight the fact that you were talking about, because this is something that is a consistent conversation. It's just like, oh well, I'm not having sex, but you're nasty. Like, you're nasty. Or I'm not having sex, but you're looking at somebody like they're less than. Or you have a very prideful heart, and a prideful heart doesn't necessarily, and that's something that I really want us to unpack real quick, because a prideful heart doesn't necessarily mean that you're walking around like I'm killing it, like I know what I'm doing, yada, yada, yada. A prideful heart can literally be like, oh, I'm not sharing because I get to have everything on my own the way that I want to do it, right? It can also be very boxy in the frame of, I'm not going to even share my gifts, whatever my gifts are, whatever my time may be. I'm not going to share my time with you because I'm not getting no money in return, right? So if I'm not getting bread, like let's say for example, I mean, just even, especially, as a pastor, I can only imagine, but like, I don't want to share my gifts because I'm not getting paid. And I firmly do believe that there should not be hungry entrepreneurs. I'm not about that, but
ministers,
but ultimately, like for real, like if you don't automatically see a return for your end on your end, you're just like, I'm not sharing it. So that can be prideful in and of itself. It doesn't have to be, because I really just want to unpack the word, because you know, Christianese is a real thing. Like, you know, like it's just Christian language.
Yeah.
And that's not what this channel is about. That's not what we're about at Trey and with Trey and Jay. And I for sure can say that without a doubt. At Epiphany Brooklyn, it's like, I just had to say Epiphany Brooklyn. I'm like, I never say that. It's Epiph BK. But anyway,
you being all proper tonight.
Right. I was like, that's so formal. But like at Epiph BK, like that's also like not something that we talk that we allow us to like sit and fester in. You know what I mean? Because it's so easy for us to be consumed with what the culture is telling us, that you always have an output. For whatever your output is, you get an input. So if you are walking in a space where you're not automatically seeing where the input is, you're like, nah, it's a dub. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself can be prideful. So I just wanted to kind of unpack that and make sure that we were clear.
And sometimes it looks like, oh, I'm going to this church, but I'm not getting anything out of it. So therefore, I'm not going to invest into the church, or I'm leaving the church and I'm looking for another church because this particular church is not giving me what I need. And sometimes that's the case, but like, you know, maybe that church is there for you to grow, for you to give something to the church. You know, we become consumers and not producers, not giving, not growing, planting a seed, I should say. And so that Trey, yeah.
So ultimately, just to cap that real quick, I know you guys have heard us say this before, but we firmly believe in church in the wild. And church in the wild looks like a lot of people will not go to a physical building, but at the same time, that does not mean that we do not submit to a local church, obviously, right? And obviously, I'm just saying that because this is my pastor that y'all were talking to, right? That we having this conversation with. But like, seriously, being okay with understanding, like, yes, you can go on YouTube and you can consume some really great, healthy doctrine, healthy Bible, understand, like all of that. But your pastor needs to know you. Like, people need to know you. People need to know you.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. That's where the little sins, quote unquote, because there's no such thing as a little sin, but that's when those things start to wither away at you. And I wanted to quickly mention, I remember we had like a leadership retreat, and Pastor B was talking about withering, and I felt like I heard that so loud and clear. It was like, it never starts with the dead flower. Like, it just doesn't just die today. You walk around and poof, that joint is dead. No, it starts from something, and then it builds, and then it continues to build, and that can be unforgiveness. And I know that it may sound like we're harping on this, but we're talking about spiritual health. And one of the main components of really growing spiritually is forgiveness, is activating that like muscle that is mad hard.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about that joint. It's easy. But anyway.
Let's get into this. You're going to get.
I'll get into the next question. Okay, so I really wanted to just kind of get into talking specifically, Pastor B, if you can talk specifically to the people who feel like or have been taught to believe that they have to clean themselves up a bit before they get into a relationship with Jesus. So you can talk to those people in particular, like, yes.
That's good.
A good question.
Let me just before I answer that question, say one last statement that is exactly what you and Janelle are talking about, which is this idea of community. And I just want to say to your listeners, man, you really do want to get into a atmosphere of people that saying I'm sorry, seeking forgiveness, or even confessing quote unquote little sins or unnoticeable sins is absolutely normal. Like, if it's not normal for you to say, yo, I am struggling with porn, or I am struggling with pride, or I am struggling with whatever it is, right now in this current season, I have to check my heart. If I can be honest with y'all, I constantly have to check my heart on coveting. and seeing somebody else have something, be like, wow, God, why you didn't give me that? Like, I want that. But I should be able to go to a safe place to say, man, here's the things that I'm struggling with, and here's how. And then have somebody challenge me and love me and care for me. And so I just want to say to your listeners, man, don't take this topic lightly of your spiritual growth, especially when it comes to the little sins or the unnoticeable ones. Don't just focus on the big ones, but get yourself in the atmosphere that you actually, repenting is normal. It's a part of the culture. So to the second question, which is also kind of like the same, we're kind of talking about the same thing about cleaning yourself up, right? Before you come to God. First of all, let me just say to you, and I want to try to get as close as possible. It is impossible to clean yourself up enough to be accepted by a holy God. It is impossible to do. And honestly, you're running a race that is like a race that you can't finish. It's an unfinished marathon, and you're just exhausted, and you're running, and you're tired, and you're trying to clean yourself up. And at the end of the day, God is like, yo, I'm not looking for the perfect you to come to me. I'm looking for you to come to me. And if you knew how much I am willing to help you clean up, like that's, that I think we have it backwards. We want to be cleaned up before we meet Jesus. And the reality is Romans chapter 5, verse 8 will say that God shows his love for us, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Like he didn't desire the you that you think you want to be. He desires the you who you are, right? And so that was,
Can you repeat that part just one more time, please? Just that line right there. Thank you.
So so God doesn't desire the future you that you want to be. God desires the you like you are right now. And we're talking about spiritual growth. See, spiritual growth is not expected from God until you first get into a relationship with him. He is not expecting for you to do all of these things and jump through all these hoops. He's like, nah, man, I'm loving, I'm gracious. It's who I am. I am gracious and I am forgiving. And once you meet Jesus, here's what real spiritual growth is. You meet Jesus and you fall so deeply in love with Jesus that it's like, yo, those things start the things that you used to love. You were like, man, that thing is secondary. And the next thing you know, you don't even want that desire anymore. You don't even want that taste. Now, some of you that takes longer. Some of us are still struggling with, the same things. But the reality is, the more you focus on Jesus, right, the more you can overcome it. And so I really want to help your listeners understand that cleaning yourself up. It's like you got to understand that God's standard for you is spotless and blameless. Yep. And we can't come to him spotless and blameless. None of us can. And so all of us have to come to him humble, repenting, saying, woe is me, God, I need you. And then he works and works and works on our heart. And that's part of the sanctifying journey is allowing the Lord to continue to help you to grow, not you being at some spiritual level before you even meet Jesus. It's impossible.
Yep. Listen, y'all.
But what happens when it looks like other people? Because you were talking about coveting earlier, right? Just before this, but sometimes it looks like it looks attainable, or it looks like this is the thing. Can you talk through that? Because I remember just even like having a conversation with someone who was like, yeah, I mean, and it's on our channel as well. Janelle had said this, and was like, yeah, when I get older, I'll become Christian. Like, I'll like for real, like.
Nah, let me tell you what I said.
For my life,
I already had a relationship with Jesus, and I knew, like, it was very clear to me that I knew I needed him, and I knew that he was for real. I was like 16 years old. But I was like, I thought I had to clean myself up, and I thought I had to do certain things. So I was like, I'm gonna table this and come back to you when I'm like 45, because that's when I'm gonna be finished doing all my dirt. and then I'm gonna go to school and do X, Y, and Z. And I did that, and it got me into a lot of unnecessary crap. But that's a whole nother story. But thankfully, God in His sovereignty, He pulled me right out of that. But yeah, like, I really thought that I can do whatever I need to be, to whatever I thought I wanted to do, and then come back and clean myself up and then be with him. So yeah,
I mean for myself, I was just like, I mean, I know you're not gonna want you're not gonna want me. So because I was just like, I felt like the way that I saw Christians,
Oof.
right? They were just like, excuse me, very like, hello,
like this.
I I don't curse. I don't listen to secular music. Oh, you had a skirt on. Oh, you wear a bathing suit. Or or you have a boyfriend, like, and y'all have sex. You know what I mean? Like all of those things. I saw that. So I was just like, oh, well, you would never want me because I do all the things. Like, oh, you smoke, or you have sex, or you drink, or you party, or you go out. Like, I'm like, why would you want me if I'm already doing all of those things happily? I'm not talking about just doing them and they're like, it's whack. I'm happily enjoying, fully enjoying the
sin.
I don't know it's sin. I'm like, this is amazing. Like smoking, drinking, having fun, having sex is fun. If you don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's something that we got to talk about. It's like, when we're talking about sin, you cannot take away the fact that it's actually fun. That's why
people do it. Yeah.
Like, it's so anyway, ultimately I'm the question is like, talk about that part, because it's like, it's really difficult when you see other people who have this very like, snooty type of demeanor, and you're like, well, you know what? Since I'm not there yet, I'll wait till I get older, or you're not gonna want me anyway. So I'm not even gonna entertain a conversation with a Jesus. Like, for what? What's that about?
That's good. But this is why I said a few minutes ago that we have to normalize repentance. And I think when we don't do that, it creates these atmospheres like we've arrived. And there is no graduation of grace until you get to heaven. If you're living on this earth, like, I don't care who you are, and you are living in this flesh, and because that's the thing, we're saved from the penalty of sin when Jesus saves us. But y'all stop lying. Y'all know we're not saved from the presence of it. It's everywhere. It's on your phone. It's around us. Everywhere. It's a text message away. It's everywhere. And so
it's a text message away.
It's a text message away. So we
got so easy. It's so easy.
It's easy. It's easy. And I would say it's easier to sin than it is. I've preached this before, so I know y'all heard it. It's easier to sin than it is to actually live godly. It is a lot easier to sin. And so I've seen those atmospheres that Tracy is talking about, and even Janelle, some of the atmospheres you're talking about, where everybody is. It's kind of like this false sense of, man, we're all on this 6-lane highway. No, you're not. Like, let's be honest. That's why I try to confess to y'all. Like, man, I've been struggling with coveting and looking at what others got and wanting the same thing. Because but you know why, Janelle, we struggle with that? Because we are still in this flesh. And as long as we're in this flesh, if we're not, as Romans 12 says, 12:1, present your body as a living sacrifice. That is a daily responsibility of all of us. And the reality is, we got to stop looking down on people. Here's the reality. I counsel a lot. And Tracy, when I tell you, when people, well, pre-COVID, will come in my office, but now on virtually, when they begin to unpack their sin, number one, I'm never judging, never, because I'm gonna be honest with you. When I'm done with my little counseling session, I'm unpacking my sin somewhere else, right? And so I'm never judging that person. But the second thing I'm always thinking, this, I hope this doesn't sound crazy. I'm always thinking, that's it. And I think the reason I'm thinking that is because I know us. We are prone to wander. We are prone to sin. And so I'm often like, oh, that's the extent of the sin, because I know how messy we are. But it also points me to why we need Jesus daily, why we need our word daily, why we need community daily, because we're all prone, to wander. Jeremiah 17. The heart is deceitful. It is desperately sick. That's what the scripture says. But for some reason, when we get into like these legalistic atmospheres, and you said don't use Christianese, when we get in these atmospheres where everybody is all law driven, law driven, law driven, if you really press in on them, they extend grace to themselves, but they deal with everybody else around them through law, and it's a bad atmosphere. One of the things we've tried to do at Epiphany is constantly pull people back and say, look, it is okay to say you were broken. It is okay to say you are hurting. It is okay to say you still having sex. You can say those things, but you got to understand that one of the responsibilities of your brothers and sisters is to help you to look to Jesus. Because at the end of the day, trying to stop having sex isn't going to be fulfilling. What's fulfilling?
Listen, I'm out.
She's so stupid.
I'm out. Okay.
What's fulfilling is when you understand that Jesus is not a temporary joy.
Yes.
It is an eternal joy. That 5 minutes of sex is temporary because that won't last, right? But you're trying to fill a void constantly, sex after sex after sex, or whatever it is, that one would find himself struggling with. You're constantly trying to fill a void that one profession of faith with Jesus will fulfill. Now, that don't mean we don't struggle.
Yeah.
But it does mean I have now found the anchor that I was hoping and looking for all of my life. And so again, normalize repentance, man. Stop allowing people to hope, because what it's doing is it's causing us to suffer in silence, and then it's calling us to sin in secret. That's dysfunctional too.
And then if you don't repent, how are you going to get the help? How are you going to get the community? How are you going to get what you need? I mean, listen, AA said it best, right? Like, you must confess it. Like, you must say it. Hey, I'm what is it? The AA, hey, I'm an alcoholic, and hey, my name is Janelle and I'm an alcoholic. I'm not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So okay. So this is so good. This is so good. So I really wanted to let's get into this part, okay? Which is, go ahead, Janelle.
Wait, you talk the next question?
I was going to the next question. Go ahead. You could go ahead.
Yeah, that's what happens when it's two of us, and we mad excited. Okay, so this is good.
Mad excited. Right? I love this. This is good.
This is what we do. This is what we do, and we do it for free. Like Trey said, we did it for free. We want to eventually monetize this, but we love it so much, and we see growth in people that it's worth it. So spirituality and spiritual and not religious. A lot of people say I'm spiritual but not religious. And I used to say that too. So what does that even mean? Like, I'm sure you've heard of it before, because you're Pastor B, you've heard of it. How do you distinguish the whole universe from Jesus as we are in a relationship? And that has to go with all relationships, like romantic relationships, friendships, family. How do you see that affecting your relationships as well? So there's the religion versus spirituality, and like the whole universe versus Jesus bit. And then how does that, and it has a lot of meat to it, this question. And then how does that affect your relationships?
Yeah. So I actually really understand the person, because you're right. I have heard, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. I've heard that a lot down through the years, and even before I was pastoring. But to be honest with you, I really understand what people are saying and what they mean by that. It is almost going back to what Tracy was saying. When Tracy was saying, she saw a stuffiness, right, with certain communities of faith. And so what happens is when people say that, what they're really meaning is, man, I'm in love with the idea of a higher power. I would say that is Jesus. And some people might even say that. They're like, man, I love Jesus. I've heard that before. Man, I love Jesus. I don't love his body. It's the same thing. Oof. What you're essentially saying is, when you say religion, you're essentially saying, I like the idea of spirituality because I see some benefit in it, whether it's from a moral standpoint, emotional health standpoint. Like, I see the benefit. But I'm not fooling up with organized religion. I'm not fooling up with no body. I'm not giving no, I'm not giving no money. A lot of people get hung up with church. I'm not giving no money to a church. And I get what people are saying. It really, that saddens me, because not for the person, but because of the witness of the church. And I wish that we would get to a point where anybody that is searching for a spiritual depth or a spiritual meaning, whether it's the universe or whatever, um, when they finally hear the gospel, if they're being presented it by by a Christian, that their automatic reaction would be, man, I know 10 churches I could go to now because all of them got a good reputation. They all mad loving, they all down to earth, they contextualize the word for me. Like I like them as a person, they're not always judging me, because that's the other thing.
Yes.
It's the reputation of the church that they're bucking against, not necessarily quote unquote religion. But this idea of the universe versus like a relationship with Jesus, I think a lot of it is the problem is, again, going back, and I feel like I'm really beating up the church tonight, and I don't mean to. But I think a lot of people's gripes with, like, not gripes, but their lack of understanding of the universe versus Jesus, I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of gospel witness from those who are inside the church.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean that in
Yeah.
our lack of being able to boldly tell people about Jesus, because we don't want to ruffle no feathers, but also we ain't living it, right? I'm not saying you ladies, but if you took a poll of of all Christians that are professing and go to church, we're not living it, so we're not the best witnesses. And so people are running to the universe and Sage and all of these other places because we're not, the way Philippians 1 will say it is, only let your manner of life be counted worthy of the gospel. In other words, my life should reflect the gospel. I should have gospel written on my profession and my demonstration. Unfortunately, people ain't hearing it from us, and they're not seeing it from us. And so they're now trying to be guided by some higher power or some universe. And it's like, yo, if I could just tell you, like, I'm happy you're searching. I'm happy you are, you sense the need for something higher. Let me tell you about that higher power. Let me tell you who he is. And then we can point people to the cross of Christ. But unfortunately, I think more and more people are flirting with this idea of universe and just spirituality because there's lack of gospel witness inside the body.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I want you to get to the part of
the relationships bit.
Yes, because I think at this point when it's like, if we are, in order to do due diligence in this space, right? And as we're talking about like really building your relationship, right? Many people are not going to have this quick conversation with the pastor because in their minds, the pastor is like, the teacher, like they're going to talk to their peers first before they speak to the person in front. Right. And so if you can unpack what it looks like to have that conversation, because something that you said, which is something so real, I'm glad you're searching. Start from that part of the conversation. Like, I'm glad you're searching. That means that you're interested. So let's talk about that. And let's not just be like, let's not say, oh, wag your finger. Like there's something wrong with you looking for sage. There's something wrong with you for looking for, within crystals and the sounds and all the things. Like you're clearly looking for something. Let's talk about it. So can you start from there?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the thing is, we've all been unconsciously discipled, and I'm talking all as in those who have any church background at all. Probably not you, Trey, but I know Janelle has probably been discipled in this unconsciously discipled in this context of, we deal with people and presenting Jesus to people by, I remember somebody told me one time, man, here's how you evangelize. You go up to a person that you don't know and you say to them, "Do you know where you're going when you die?"
Die.
I'm like, that's when you want to. First of all, that's mad morbid. Like, why are we talking about death? We just met. That's like that don't even make sense. And so, like, we're starting from a place of deepness instead of. This is why I think it's important to like build relationships. First of all, when you first meet somebody, it may not be the best time to share the gospel. You don't even know them. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what their worldview is, their upbringing. You don't know what their moral character is like. And so I would encourage us, like, first, like, get around the people that are closest to you, whether it's your coworkers or family members, which I would agree is probably the hardest to share the gospel with, because they knew you or like all your life, and so it's like hard for them to see this change.
Yeah.
But the people that are closest to you, build relationships, engage with people, talk with people, hear where people are, get interested. So tell me about this sage. Like, one of my cousins is into burning sage. And I didn't say like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? First of all, I'm like, okay, I'm mad interested. Like, what is it like? He's like, oh man, it just stinks up my house. Like, I don't even like doing it, but the culture's doing it. And so I'm like, all right, like, we joking and laughing about it, but it led deeper. Like, it allowed me to ask questions that said to you, I'm listening. Like, don't ask questions to just fill time. But as the movie White Men Can't Jump says, like, you got to hear Jimmy. You gotta listen. You gotta like be actually interested and repeat back to them. Okay, so this is what you're saying, that you get out of whatever it is that you're into. But I think somewhere along the line, we also should be praying, like, God, give me boldness in this relationship to speak about you, to talk about you. Give me wisdom so that it's not a turn off. Look, you may not want to bring that person to church right away, because that could be weird. You may not even want to crack open the Bible right away, because that could be weird. Yeah. But a lot of times you just build relationships. You ask questions. You're interested in their world. You'll be surprised at how they are now interested to hear, well, what's holding you down? What keeps you? What keeps you solid? I'm doing sage. What keeps negative energy from you? I mean, you can then. That gives you an avenue right now to share your faith if you are a Christian.
And that open repentance that you were talking about, like letting them see you, like letting them see, like,
talk more about
I'm struggling
that,
through this.
Talk more about that. Yes.
Yeah, because I think that's the part that no longer allows you to be stifled in that space of, oh, well, I can't really share the depths of my hurt or the depths of my anger or the depths of my pain with said person, because you are, you're going to consistently talk about everything is Jesus and everything is God. And because you're not listening, because you're not really praying, and this is why it's happening. It's like, no, like, it really get a moment to listen to a person unpack themselves. Like, that right there I feel like would have anybody just willing to hear, because you felt heard, you felt valid. And that's the thing that everybody talks about in like therapy and even like in couples therapy, when I come pull up through to that, but like, it's like ultimately, like, it's like feeling validated matters. Like that part, that means that you hear me. You heard me. So yeah.
I listen. I just got off of, and I think my wife would be okay with me sharing this. I did an elders meeting this evening, and then it ran right into a therapy session that Ty and I do, just to make sure that we're continuing to grow. We've been married this year will be 19 years, and we're still working on, just continuing to learn each other, sharpen each other,
and shout out to y'all.
Shout out to Ty.
And they like each other too.
And we're actually friends.
We actually are best friends. That's a big deal.
but you know what? Like, I'm learning, 19 years in, how important it is for me to, like, even in the context of a relationship like a marriage, for me to actually stop and just listen and just hear. Because what that does is, honestly, it gets the person from going like this to like, oh, okay, this person is receiving me, no matter what I'm saying. Like, I'm not blinking an eye, I'm not judging, like, I'm just listening and hearing. I'm not saying I'm the best at it. I've actually found that it's easier for me to listen, and this is bad, but I'm just confessing it to y'all. It's easier for me to listen to those who are not as close to me than it
Yeah.
is for those that like I have a way of just like dismissing the people that are closest to me. And I'm like, well, why do I do that? But it's very important that like all your relationships, you are checking in and saying, how am I doing? Just listening. How am I doing? Being honest. How am I doing? Disarming this person so that they don't feel judged. Those are all avenues to be able to share your faith.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because when you are listening to someone that's very close to you and they have something to say that you might not want to hear, it's so personal.
It stings more. It
It
stings more.
stings. It's like a knife to the heart, but at the end of the day, it's so necessary. I'm learning.
Janelle, somebody could say something to you that you might have met one or two times, and it won't bother you.
I don't
But
care.
Warner could say the same thing to you, and it like destroy you because that's the most intimate relationship. That's the closest
Absolutely.
relationship to you, and so it should sting. We hold those who are closest to us in a higher esteem, and we give them access to our hearts in ways that we don't give others. And so, like, really listening and really hearing is so important. I'm sorry I cut you off, Janelle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Trey, you were going to say something?
No. I was just saying, yeah, speak to access.
That access is like, you give that person your heart and you're
Yeah.
praying and hoping that they take care of it,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
We could do a whole
relationship.
nother we could do a whole nother
Lot talk
live
about that.
on specifically on who to give access to
Ooh,
when it comes to your heart. Because y'all want to talk about spiritual growth.
woo! I
Y'all want to talk
mean,
about
if you
spiritual
want to
growth.
come back, Pastor B, you are very welcome
You
to
know I
come
love
back,
y'all. Y'all know I love y'all anytime.
especially in the month of February.
Yeah, y'all know I love y'all, so anytime. But yeah, man, give some people are hindered with their spiritual growth because they gave too many people access to their heart.
Lord of mercy. Lord
I'm just
of
saying.
mercy. Let's go.
La. That is
I'm just saying.
extremely true.
Yeah.
Extremely true.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have so much to say about that. Okay, we got one last question, and because it's 9 o'clock. Our up and coming series is called, and this is funny because this is what we're talking about, God's call for us to be radically self-aware. So that's our next series.
Mm.
Can you unpack how the view of God's affecting the view of God, the view that we have of God, and how it affects the way we see ourselves
Before
and
I
our
answer the
spiritual health?
question, let me put it back on y'all. I don't know how much more time we got, but let me ask y'all a question. What does it mean to be self-aware? Like when you say that, when you guys are going through this, what is that?
It's a
What does
good
that mean?
question. I'm glad you asked that question because what we mean by self-aware is knowing as much as humanly possible what God sees you, how God sees you, says you are, how God created you to be. Because He's the
Mm,
source, He's your creator.
mm, mm.
And so He knows better than we know ourselves. Even your mama knows you, your
Yeah,
husband, or whoever knows you, and so that's what we mean.
got you. Trey?
Whew, this is my type of topic over here. All right. So let me adjust. Okay, so self-aware ultimately means I think it comes from learning who God says you are and walking that out boldly,
Mm,
lovingly, and gracefully. And what that looks like is it is okay that you are not perfect. You're not God. There's that self-awareness.
Thank the Lord. God.
Being self-aware enough to know I'm not God, so I don't have to be perfect and I don't have to be called to be perfect. So if I mess up, it's okay for me to say, hey, I messed up, and then move towards how can I rectify whatever it is that I've met in whatever capacity I've messed up. So
yeah,
I think self-awareness is a learning of God, a learning of God, a learning of yourself. And then from there, you can do others. You can engage with other people. But if I'm not clear on what this relationship is, which is, God and myself, then how am I going to be impacting the relationship I have with others? Okay. So
good.
self-aware ultimately means really taking the time to get to know you and God.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think we're so wrapped up and so quick to engage with other people without giving that real time. And there's no enough amount of time, right? But we're not good when we struggle with giving ourselves that real time, that care for self, right? And self-care does not mean only getting your shape up every week. You know what I mean?
And bubble bath,
getting your nails done every week.
Right.
It's not only that, it's the internal work. I'm a liar. Like, work on that. I don't know how to deal with my finances. Work on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to be critiqued. Work on that. I don't know how to listen to people. I'm so quick to be like, I didn't really even hear. I don't know how to really be present to a hurt, like a real heart hurt. I don't know how to be present to that, you know. And that, like, the only way I personally believe, like, it comes to radical self-awareness, because there's absolutely no way I believe that the Lord will call us to be in relationship with him at surface level. Like, what's the purpose of surface level relationships? Don't nobody want to do small talk. And we absolutely not doing small talk with the Lord. Like, we're not doing Jesus. He didn't come and die for us to be like, all right, well, I only want to talk to you about this real quick and don't go into other areas of my life. It's like, it comes to that self-awareness comes into, I'm opening one door. He's going to open one door. You open the door, he knocks, like, oh, you open the door. He's like, I'm coming in for the whole house, y'all. Okay. I'm coming in for the whole house. But that comes with the self-awareness. And so I just really feel like the radical self-awareness comes in there. And it's a consistent work. It's not like we're talking about because we got it. Boom. It's an everyday consistent thing. But it's a choice. It's something that we get to experience. It's a choice. You get to experience it. You don't have to. You know what I'm saying? It's a choice that you do. So that's ultimately my very passionate.
That's good. I was taking notes from both of y'all, because I've been hearing this idea of self-awareness, and I'm always trying to be a student of the culture, and so, like, constantly hearing self-awareness. You know, you said some things though, Trey, that I'm like, yes and amen. You know, you can only really, especially if you know the Lord, you can only know yourself better when you know God more. And honestly, that's all theology is, right? The term theology is like, I think we think of that being so, we kind of systemize that. But it's not heady. Honestly, theology is the study of God. That's all theology is. And so it is important to continue to grow in your knowledge and your understanding of who God is, because in light of who God is, you will then find yourself. And I would also add that you really need to try your best to understand who God is daily. Because that self-awareness, oh, by the way, you say haircuts and getting your nails done. You can still get your hair cut. You can still get your nails done. You know what I'm saying? Go do your thing.
We ain't looking raggedy up in here.
Please, do your thing. Do your thing in terms of self-care on that tip. But you also got to understand a big part of your spiritual walk and self-care of your spiritual, the spiritual nature of who you are. A lot of it has to do with you getting exposed to Jesus more and more and more and more. And so I would say it like this, man. You have to find ways, and this really is going back to the idea of spiritual growth. You have to find ways to look at the things in your life that stir your affections for God and do more of that. And the things that rob you of your understanding, your affections, your exposure to God, you got to pull yourself back from it. You almost got to do like Colossians chapter 3, like, put these things to death. And I feel like I'm on a journey of that. Like, I'm trying to be more dependent on the Lord. I was talking to a friend last week that said the way, like, he doesn't know how to be dependent to the Lord unless he physically lays prostrate, like physically. So every morning before the kids get up, before the wife gets up, he gets out of his bed and he lays on the floor. Because for him, that signals I am a man, I am a human, and I need more of God. I need to be dependent on God. And so I don't know what it would take for your listeners to get more understanding of God and more exposure to Him. But I promise you, the more you do, the more you will become self-aware, and that self-awareness will lead you on a journey of, man, I don't know why I used to like that, or I don't know why I talk like that. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I'm so nasty in this area. When you get more and more of God, you start to get more and more loving. You get more and more gracious. You get more and more merciful, because you realize with God, you get all of those things, and none of us deserve any of those things, but you get all of them in God. So because of that, I now know how to extend grace, because I've been extended grace. You understand?
Yeah.
Like it's so important. So yeah, you're on your self-awareness journey. It's impossible to really understand who you are until you start to dig deeper in who God is. And in the beginning, it might be surface, right, Tracy? But after some time, you gotta start digging into some deeper things. The Bible talks about going from milk to meat. And that only really happens, honestly, when you're getting yourself around people that are constantly growing. Stop surrounding ourselves around people that are going backwards and saying that they profess faith, but they ain't really living it out. Yeah, it's 21st century. Nobody has time for that. If we're gonna profess faith, we're gonna grow. Period.
Right. We got to get into that word. We got to get into prayer, right? And the community piece is so
discipleship.
Key. Yeah. Man, that's a whole nother topic. And I would love to, have you back on to talk about discipleship and opening up, like you said, opening up our hearts to the wrong people or to too many people, and not being
giving too many people access,
giving everybody the keys.
Yeah.
Everybody can get the keys.
Everybody don't got the keys, y'all.
The key, and the Bible talks about keys being like authority and like, you're getting access. You can't give that to everybody.
Facts.
Anyhow, I've done it. Ask me how I know, because I've done it. Ask me how I know. All the stuff, all the things, I've done it. Pastor B, this is awesome. This has been great. And we are a little over time, but that's okay. Thank you for rocking with us. You've always been a blessing to us. And I gotta say, the first time I met you wasn't 2015. I think it was before that. At
the conference.
Yes. Was that 20? No. At oh man. Hassan's concert.
Did we meet there? I know you talked to Ty. I don't remember us meeting. I know you talked to Ty.
I met you-ish.
Okay. All right.
I met you guys there. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's a cool family. And then it was kind of like it went over my head. And then next thing you know, y'all starting the church, and then you become this like big, you make this big impact in my life. And I'm like, wow, it's funny how you just meet somebody one day and then the next day it's like there's this big change that, anyway. So thank you so much. Thank you.
You guys have made a big impact on my life, and I'm very, very proud of you guys. And I look forward to seeing and hearing more from Life with Trey and Jay. And those of you you're so stupid. Those of you who are watching, and all of your followers, listen. If y'all don't know Tracy and y'all don't know Janelle, I promise you, they live what they are saying. The struggles be real. The consistent pursuit of Jesus is real, and they honestly, man, they're a big part of community, and they're a big part of serving. So, man, I love you both, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And I gotta say this, Pastor B was one of the first people that was like, Janelle, I need to turn on my computer and see you speak. I need to be like, I don't know if you remember that, but
I remember the conversations.
You were like, your job is great and all, but this is like, it's just bigger. God has so much more for you, and I will never forget that. And you can't just take anybody's word, but that was not only his word, but that was like confirmation of what God was telling me. So anyhow,
praise God.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And to be honest with you, as we said, personally, I for surely don't let any old body speak into my life. I don't. I've just kind of been that person, but Pastor B, you already know I could cry at this point. You already know, but I'm just so grateful. I'm consistently grateful, forever grateful, that even in the very moments that I never even saw out, you were like, "There's an out. There is an out, and there's more, and there's other things." And I'm like, "But I can't see it." And you're like, "Just keep going, just keep pressing." So, consistently encouraging. And consistently challenging us. So I'm beyond grateful, and a consistent ear, because it's mad easy, as you were saying, it's mad easy for people to just consume and just be like, oh yeah, I heard you. But to hear somebody and check in on that thing that they talked about, or those things that they talked about, matters. So I am for sure grateful.
Right.
Well, y'all be safe. Y'all be well out in these streets. I love y'all.
Yes, thank you. You too. And we'll let you go back to your family, because we've barred you for enough time. So thank you. Until next time.
Until next time. So listen, y'all, this is a wrap for Lives with Trey and Jay.
In January.
January. This is a wrap for today. And for January, if you want to go check out our previous conversations, the first one, which was with Janelle Corey, she is a therapist, that is on our Instagram at Life with Trey and Jay. That's TRAYANDJEA. All right. And then last week we had Olivia Dope, and tonight, of course, we had Pastor B. So stay tuned. Next Thursday, we got another thing coming out. Make sure you guys send us your emails. So if you want to keep up with what's up with Trey and Jay, definitely send us your emails, because we send
out bi-monthly
emails the 1st and 15th of every month. Also, you are already on our channel, so pull up and binge watch season 1 and 2. We're having so many of these conversations because they're consistent things that we got to talk about. So we've had so many of them. Definitely pull up and make sure that you check that out. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, everything, all the things at Life with Trey and Jay. That's TRAYANDJEA, y'all. It's been real.
And the last thing, get your tickets for Valentine's Day. If you're a woman,
listen to the lady.
Listen to the lady. You don't want to miss it.
In your mind, you're gonna lose your edges. Okay, I just, let's start from the gather your edges, because Mina. All right, you can follow her at Mina_B on Instagram. That's MINAA_B. On Instagram. Listen, she's about to snatch all our edges, y'all.
Snatch.
And listen,
and also, the topic.
Yes, go ahead.
The topic is all about radical self-awareness, the gift of being yourself. And so as we ended the conversation with Pastor B about that, and so we're going to continue that next month and for Valentine's Day. So get your tickets.
The first 10 tickets are $25. After that is $35. So gather yourself and get your tickets. Okay. The first, I'm gonna repeat that for the people in the back over there. All right, y'all. Our first 10 tickets are $25. After that is $35. Check the link in our bio. You can definitely find us on Eventbrite. The link in our bio, you can get the tickets. So yeah.
And it's February 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
12th. Yes, 7 p.m. y'all. All right, we're out. Good
night.
Take care. Good night, people.